I was like, that, that's the essence of decentralization. Not only should the doctors be decentralized, but guess who else has to be decentralized? This is the part of decentralized medicine everybody forgets,
The
is the
patient.
patient.
Yeah.
Because guess what? If the patient doesn't listen to the doctor, that could be a benefit in the centralized healthcare system. In a decentralized healthcare system, if the patient doesn't listen to the advice, that's actually a reason to cut them from the system.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you have to realize this sword cuts both ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's a meritocracy. And if you're not willing to do the things that needs to happen, then you can't hold the doctors liable for your non-compliance. In other words, you have to take ownership of that. And I have to tell you, a lot of centralized doctors like this part of decentralized medicine. Why? Because it's completely absent in centralized medicine.
Mm.
Um, Now, I will tell you that the powers that be at Harvard University have tried for a long time to decrease our pay when patients have complications.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm happy to report that that's never happened, but that hasn't stopped, the communist fucks that run these places that are trying to screw, how we practice medicine. And that's part of the reason why doctors are, in the centralized perspective, are so burned out now. They are being destroyed by the system. The system is not just destroying the patients, it's actually destroying the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why doctors are killing themselves at record rates. It's the reason why they're burning out. It's also the reason why they're professionally dissatisfied. And you remember, to continue to practice, their job, most of them were forced to take a vaccine that they had no choice in taking.
Mm-hmm.
And now some of them are really pissed off about it.
Of course.
And we've already had some legal cases, like in the state of New York, where people who were fired that didn't do it now are getting their back pay. I think the more interesting lawsuits that haven't happened yet, because of some of the things we talked about earlier in this podcast, what happens when it's found out that the government forced people to do something that actually harms them? Far worse than coronavirus, because let's face it, coronavirus is like just having the flu for most people. And when you think about young, fit athletes dropping dead from heart attacks, we saw that on live TV with Damar Hamlin. He still hasn't recovered enough to be a starter for the Buffalo Bills. Probably never will again.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder also about a lot of the injuries since the NFL mandated the COVID vaccine. I still remember the day that Anthony Brown walked off the field when he played for, I think it was the Jets. Oh, no, Tampa Bay, and said, "I'm done." And everybody thought he was crazy
Mm-hmm.
because he faked his vaccine card
Mm-hmm.
in the NFL. And I think about all the players that likely have had injuries since that time. Like, I think about guys like Darius Leonard. Is the reason he's not got back to his tip top shape tied to what happened to him? I don't know if we'll ever know the answer to those things, but I will tell you, based on the data that we now know that's out there, those questions should be asked, and it should be okay to ask them when you're a doctor in this paradigm. Why? Because we now know that these vaccines that were mandated and forced on people were clearly a problem.